For those that don't know who Ozone or what Ozone Magazine was, can you just explain?
So everyone's familiar with the Source magazine, like the Bible of hip hop or whatever. Um, you're familiar with Vibe, a culture magazine. Um, Ozone magazine was that, but it was specifically for Southern rap music. It was specifically a culture magazine, a magazine that was designed to highlight Southern hip hop music, Southern hip hop culture, and anything that went around with Southern hip hop. Like you had what was the one on the West Coast? Well, it wasn't really. It was kind of a national magazine, but they kind of focused more on West Coast stuff. Was Murder Dog. It was kind of like Murder Dog a little bit,
Okay.
but Murder Dog kind of first because focused on anything that was regional. Ozone though was strictly 100% about the South and everything that was happening in the South.
Based in Orlando.
Based in Orlando, it was started by a woman named Julia Beverly, uh, and how I got involved was JB and I were friends online, and this is where the message board era of the
Forums.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had come across each other in those forums, and I was familiar with Ozone Magazine because I thought finally somebody is doing something that highlights all these trends and things that are happening that are shaping culture on a national scale that no one really knows where it's coming from. So I was like, this is dope. And she and I struck up a friendship, and a guy that was working for her at the time was a guy named Maurice Garland, who was writing for her at the time. It was one of her editors. He and I were also online friends because of forums and for the same reasons, because we had similar taste in music and we had similar opinions about things that were related to Southern hip hop and the type of disrespect that Southern hip hop was receiving.
Let people know what years this is too, because now it's crazy to talk Southern hip hop
Because
disrespect.
it's the
norm.
yeah, it's the norm. But so from post even which is this is still crazy because even considering from like the mid 90s till about maybe 2010, Southern rap was still kind of looked at as this niche thing. Even though during that time, No Limit Records happened, Cash Money Records happened, Suave House Records happened, Dungeon Family, Organized Noise, all that happened during that time. All these giant movements within the culture, all this stuff happened during that time. But even still, during that time, there was a large group of people uh, who uh, were tasked with reporting on the culture that was still dismissive of it. Like it just like whatever, like nah, the the term that Northerners use, people from up north use to the catch-all term was, yeah, that's Bama shit. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But all those Bamas down there down south. So Julia was smart to say, you know what? I'm gonna take all this stuff that is not being not having a light being shined on it, and I'm going to shine a real bright light on it. So that's what drew me into Ozone. Eventually, I was saying that she and I had a mutual friend and Maurice Garland, um, and Maurice was at one point there was maybe Maurice was like the only guy out of maybe three or four people that were writing about Southern hip hop on a national level. There was Maurice Garland, there was Charlie Braxton, there was Benjamin Ingram, and a few other people that were writing about Southern hip hop, but that would get into the sources and the vibes and the Double XL magazines, and even when that would happen, it'd be like a 3 or 4 paragraph thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like you were doing like full on spreads on people, unless unless it was a Cash Money or No Limit when you couldn't really deny it. Like these niggas was they was selling 30, 40 million records, you know, and at that point you just can't deny it.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, there was, like I said, there was this, you know, there was this group of tastemakers that were like, ah. So that being said, I get the Ozone. Eventually, Maurice is moving on. He was the music editor at the time. JB and I were friends, and JB, she used to ask me questions about like stuff that happened in the '90s. You know, because she didn't want to, she didn't want to miss anything. She wanted to do her due diligence. Like, tell me about you're from Tennessee. Tell me about how A-Ball and MJG were in the '90s. Tell me about 3 6 Mafia in the '90s. Tell me about all that kind of stuff. Tell me about what other stuff was popping in the '90s down south that I may not know about. The UGKs, the Tim Smooths, the all the bounce music, DJ Magic Mike, all that stuff. Which she kind of had a idea about Magic Mike because she was in Orlando where he was working.
Right.
But still, she wanted to know history. And I was just, I would just be giving her, telling her what I knew just from me being a fan and listening to all that stuff.
Just talking, just having conversations.
Just conversations. And then eventually one day, she was like, "Hey, well, Maurice is getting ready to move on, and I'm gonna need a new music editor. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'd be interested. I'd love to do it." And she kind of gave me a breakdown of what all that entailed, and what do you have any writing skills? I was like, I mean, yeah, I can put a paragraph together. You know what I mean? I'm not a trained journalist or anything like that. I mean, I was in school. When I was in school, I majored in broadcast journalism.
Okay.
So I had taken some journalism courses, and I knew what AP style was, and I knew how to put together a story. So she's like, that's enough for me. But I really want you for what's in your brain. So, we struck up that relationship. Everything was going well. She gave me tasks like, hey, review this album, go talk to this person, whatever, and that's kind of how that happened. And while that was happening is when I got into the mixtape thing. I kind of decided like I want to try my hand at this mixtape thing. And I wasn't even really aware that there was like serious money to be made in that until I started doing it.
Right.
I just wanted to make good tapes. And through some of the relationships I was able to develop at Ozone, and I had a relationship with someone who was a radio disc jockey in Orlando also that helped me get and kind of like whenever artists would come through, they would, they say, hey, they would do these things for me. They help me get drops or whatever. They introduced me to the person who I needed to talk to get drops from artists and said that sort of thing. And a lot of that happened via my relationship with them and my connection via Ozone, because people would see my name. Like the artists that I was covering, they all read the magazine.
Yeah.
So. And I say, hey, oh, you Wally Sparks, you write for Ozone. And I say, yeah, I'm one of the editors at the magazine, and it was a little easier for me to get certain things from certain people.
Nice key to have.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.